And Brandon, let's move on. The next team we're looking at is the Utah Utes. What do I always say about the Utes, Brandon? Not one Ute,
two Utes.
Two Utes. We're talking about two Utes today.
Did you say Utes?
Yeah, two Utes.
On the podcast, a little Joe Pesci for you. And that was my bad Joe Pesci, so don't tell me it's bad. I know
He'll
it's
do
bad.
his good Joe Pesci later.
It's a dumb Joe Pesci. It's a really great My Cousin Vinny reference, but yeah, it's a bad Joe Pesci reference. So just don't make fun of me for it because I already know it's bad. But we're talking about the Utah Utes, and the first question I'm going to ask you about the Utes, Brandon, has to do with their chances this year to win the division. They've got quarterback Tyler Huntley coming back. It was a surprise that he started over Troy Williams last year. He's returning this year. We'll have to fight off guys like Jack Tuttle and Jason Shelley for the starting job. You got guys like Zach Moss coming back as well on this offense. One of the main things they are losing is Darren Carrington, the second, who was one of their main receivers last year. But I look at what they have, and I look at their schedule more importantly. A non-conference schedule that includes Weber State, Northern Illinois, and BYU. Easy. Could go 3-0, no problem. And then you look at a Pac-12 schedule that includes, to me, 3 tough games for sure. Washington and USC maybe. With Stanford could be a tough one just because it's on the road. The rest of the schedule, they get a team like Oregon that could be not an amazing team this year. Like I said, we don't know what to expect from the 2 Arizonas and UCLA with new coaches. USC, like I said, they don't have Sam Darnold. They're going to have a new quarterback this year. The first thing I want to start and ask you is, could this be Utah's time to strike and win the South in 2018?
Well, Utah has been waiting for quite some time, and it still hasn't happened, to be South champs. Mm-hmm. They have not done it. They have not done it, and it is something that they are trying to get to. They've had a couple of seasons where they've played well, and because of USC, they haven't been able to get there. And I think that they have the pieces offensively. I think that Tyler Huntley did enough last season. He missed 3 games with injury, so he only played in 10 games. He had 15 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. You want to see those turnovers go down, certainly. And that's even if he ends up being the starter when it's all said and done, after these young guys try and take over. That's going to be the number one thing. If they come out with a good plan and give it to their guy at quarterback, that is going to be the main. That will determine, is what I'm trying to say. That will determine whether or not they are going to be winning this side of the conference this year. And right now, I think that they've got a chance to certainly jump from where they were last year towards the bottom to near the top. But they have a tough conference that lies ahead. They have a tough schedule that lies ahead.
You think so?
Here in the Pac-12. Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I think that there's, if you look at it, first 2 games should be fine. You've got Washington, you've got USC, you've got, on the road at UCLA. I think that those 3 right there could be games that you don't win. And then 3 losses, depending on how USC ends up faring. They only have 2 then, and USC is your winner. Well,
and you talk about they've never won the division crown.
Under their current head coach.
Yes. The only time they came close was 2015. And the only reason they did not win it that year was they were 6-3. USC was 6-3. USC beat them. USC won the tiebreaker. That's how things work. But to me, that is the ultimate question, is in order to win this division, is it going to be that, all right, you've got to have two or few losses, 2 or less losses is what I should say. You got to have 2, 1, or 0 losses in your side of the Pac-12. And can you do that? And this Utah team, you look at the schedule, I don't think it's tough, but I don't think it's easy. Like, it's right there in the middle, maybe in between 50% and 100 if we're going on hardest to easiest, with 0 being the easiest, 100 being the hardest. And the reason why I say that is you've got a Stanford team that is going to be better this year. You get them on the road. That's not a game I like. I don't like the Washington game, although it's at home because of Washington being Washington. And then you have USC. Those are the 3 marquee games for me. It all depends on what you do in the rest of your conference. Can you beat a Washington State on the road? What are we going to see from Arizona, ASU, UCLA with their first-year head coaches this year? Oregon, are they going to be a good team this year with their new head coach after Willie Taggart left and went on to Florida State this year? So, to me, it's not like, oh my God, this is like a really hard schedule. Not like, I'm not going to use the terminology I used during the Big Ten podcast where I said murderous row for one of the, I think it was Michigan State, that had like boom, boom, boom to end the year. But there's those 3 games that I look at, Washington, Stanford, and USC. What are you going to do in those 3 games? And can you do enough to have 0, 1, or 2 losses in the conference in order to win the division?
I think that it's going to be helpful for them to return a starting line that struggled, last year. I mean, it really was part of the reason, I think, why they ended next to last in the Pac-12 South. But now you're looking at, and that's a lot of times, how many times do we see this, though, Ricky, is where you end on a really rough note of a season because you have a makeshift offensive line one year. Mm-hmm. And then that leads you to the next year where a lot of times they got that year in under their belt, and now you're looking at a strong offensive line that's going to stay consistent, that's going to be able to, like I said, you have that year to learn last season, and now you're ready to go. And that's kind of what this team looks like this year, with 4 guys on the line who are returning and who are going to slot in there, and that's going to make things better for that offense.
Well, and I've got a quote here from Coach Whittingham, and he says, "We're getting closer and closer to where we want to be, but no one cares about being close. We have to get over that hump." And the thing that I will throw out that kind of goes in your argument of the schedule being difficult, I will say one of the things that doesn't make the schedule easy, you don't have Oregon State on the schedule, you don't have Cal on the schedule. So those are 2 easy opponents you are not going to play. And I wonder if, like you said, having those, like, everything lines up to where they could have a successful season. They've got returning offensive linemen. They have their running back returning. They have their quarterback returning. To me, the biggest loss on that offense is their wide receiver. But usually if I'm keeping anything out there, I'll keep my running back and my quarterback and have to replace the wide receivers. Let me ask you about this defense. What are you thinking we're gonna see from the Utes defense in 2018?
Well, I think that one of the things that you look at with them is what they're able to do up front and what they're able to do putting pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah.
And they are going to be returning Bradley Ane. I may have said that wrong, but he is the guy who kind of anchors this group. 7 sacks last season, and with him up there, with him anchoring the core, I think they bring that back. They return that. They get into the backfield. They cause chaos, like I was talking about with Colorado. What they could not do last season. In the secondary, they have plenty of depth there. So I think that this is a team that you don't look at them defensively and go, they're hurting. I think you look at them and you say, this is a team that should be solid. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be, for me, it's at the quarterback question of what they do there. But defensively, I think they're okay. I don't look at them and see glaring holes all over the place.
And you mentioned Bradley Ane. Marquise Blair is another guy they're going to get returning. He's in the secondary where he played well, but then missed the last month of the season with an injury. You mentioned the quarterback. Do you think Huntley is the start? Like, do you think there's a question? Because I don't think, like, me personally, I don't think there's going to be a question. I think Tyler Huntley is going to win this job and be the starter. Like, I don't think Tuttle or Shelley have enough to win the job over Tyler Huntley this offseason.
Well, I think that you're going to probably go with Huntley because he's got more experience. He's going into his junior season as opposed to Tuttle and Shelley.
Yeah.
You don't have anything from them. There's no past prior experience to go on from them. And if you're really trying to make a push this season to try and win the South, and you think that you're going to be able to do it because, all these other teams are restocking, they're kind of, quote unquote, starting over, you don't want to start over yourself. You want to be able to go with the guy who has some experience, who you can trust, who you have confidence in, who you've seen play before. That's why I think Tyler Huntley, I agree with you. I think that he'll take the starting job.
Well, the one thing, too, is there's a quote here that I'm reading from sltrib.com. They said that Ute freshman quarterback Jack Tuttle says, "I promise I'm going to get better." So, I mean, for me, it's that exactly is kind of the, you know what, guys like Tuttle, Shelley, you know what, we're going to have you guys still kind of maturing underneath that Tyler Huntley starter, because we know what we are going to get from him. And right now there are many people that are, like another article I'm looking at, the Utah site for 27sports.com. They have the order where Huntley's the starter, next in line is Jason Shelley, and then the challenger is Jack Tuttle. So that's kind of the order that they have it right now. But for you, overall, this one is kind of easy. What are you seeing, just kind of final thoughts on Utah for this year?
For Utah, I think that we're looking at a team that's probably going to be second or third here in the conference in the South. This is a team that should improve from where they were last season, and I think that they could be jumping some of these programs that are trying to, I don't want to say rebuild necessarily, but they are looking at how are they going to do things differently. Schemes are going to be different. Things are going to be different, and Utah is in season 8 or 9 of the same head coach.
Yeah.
So they're not going to be looking to do a whole lot different except for win more games as opposed to what they did last year.
Last year surpassed him as he served as 7 years of the Utes as head coach in the Mountain West. This year will be his 8th head coaching year for the Utes in the Pac-12. This will be his 15th year with the team.
If Utah was trying to pick any year to win the Pac-12 South, this could definitely be the year. And that's only because, like you said, Ricky, if you look at all these other teams and they have, it's not even necessarily the new head coach. It's that there's going to be a different scheme. There's going to be something different. He's bringing in his own guys. He's trying to implement his own thing, have the players bought in. Utah gets to run right past all that and say, see ya, we already have it.
Really, the only team we're going to talk about today this week that has the same starter, like we talked about Colorado, they have the same starter, but I'm sorry, Colorado fans, I kind of push Colorado off to the side and go, okay, little brother, go play in the corner, because I expect them just to be last. I don't expect them to do anything, but USC, UCLA, Arizona State, all are going to have questions mainly at the quarterback position. The one team that I can't wait to talk about later in this podcast is Arizona, because like I mentioned with Utah, you mentioned the offensive line, they return 4 of 5. They're returning Huntley. They're returning their running back. They've got guys on defense coming back, especially in key spots like safety and like you said up front with Ane, to where you're exactly right. They could be a team while everyone's trying to figure the stuff out at the beginning of the year. They could be a team that's like, all right, we're here, and just kind of give a little bit of a head start. The main thing that worries me, though, is where they have opponents this year, because USC, end of October. they're going to have their quarterback situation hammered out by the end of October. That's basically when they had Sam Darnold locked in as the starter in 2016. Like I said, that calendar turned to October, and USC didn't win a game, or did not lose a game, pardon me, to end that 2016 campaign. The rough thing for Utah is that 2 of their 3 Pac-12 games are Washington and at Stanford. That is the big part where it's like, all right, these teams might have questions, but in order to beat them, you're probably going to see them when they have those questions all figured out. Like, you're getting Arizona State and UCLA on the road end of October, early November. They're going to have everything situated unless there's a huge injury at places. You get the teams like Stanford and Washington who are going to have things figured out earlier. That's the only bad thing for Utah, in my opinion, is how the schedule is placed out, because they would, to me, I would rather see maybe UCLA and Arizona sooner and see Washington and Stanford later.
No, I think you're right. And a lot of times when you're talking about the schedule, it all comes down to when are you getting these teams and where are you getting them. And it's going to be interesting how it shakes out. But I think Utah, again, I think they do have if there was any season, I think this year could definitely be the year that they have the best chance, at least so far.
Well, this is where you guys come in. Utah fans, let us know what you think down below in the comment section. Are you guys going to finally win the Pac-12 South this year? And I don't mean that as a burn. I'm really asking, do you think you'll win your side of the Pac-12 this year? What are you excited for? What are you not excited for? Let us know what you think down below in that comment section.